The boycott of leaving Western countries is getting much worse, so the question is, why is this happening, and also, where are people going?
Don't come to Canada if you are stable back home. It's not worth it. It's just a fleece. It's a mirage. And that's the truth. Salaries in Nigeria is better, you understand? Because I can be making an equivalent of $1,000 in Nigerian naira. The amount that I'm going to spend out of that $1,000 to get my house, rent, everything may just be about 300 or 400. I have opportunity to save like 500 from my salary. But you can't try that here in Canada. You have to cut your coat according to your clothes in Canada.
I'm leaving Canada and I'm not coming back. I just finished crying because the healthcare system in this country is so bad.
You okay?
No.
If you look at a place like Canada, the pyramid housing market is set up in such a way that people have relied on their home equity for years and years and years. The housing bubble has thrived off high immigration levels which were completely unsustainable, low interest rates and loose lending standards subsidized by the government. But now you are beginning to see the big unwind of not just the housing bubble, but also the immigration bubble. And right now you are seeing more and more people who are running to the exits. They need to sell their home, cash out that equity, and get out of Canada in order to actually realize that gain. Because think about it, even if they sell their home and then sit on that cash, they've then got to pay rent somewhere, and they've then got to deal with the declining currency as well. And many people are moving to such countries like Mexico. They're going to places like Costa Rica. They're going to places like the Dominican Republic, Florida, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador. There are many places that people are going, including places in Southeast Asia. And many of these places are very affordable places to live, which offer a lower cost of living. And a lot of the pensioners that are moving out of necessity. It's because they simply cannot afford to live in Canada once they retire, because the fact is they need to cash out that home equity in order to live off it, because they haven't got a retirement. So many people in Canada don't have a retirement, and the state pension in Canada is abysmal, and you would never be able to live off that. So instead of going onto the streets and going homeless, these pensioners then look to move somewhere else. And right now they can cash out their housing market at a decent price and walk away with a large chunk of equity, which they can then live off for decades to come in the new country that they move to. Another reason why people are leaving en masse right now is crime. Crime is absolutely skyrocketing in Canada, and it goes with the bad economy hand in hand. When you've got a bad economy, it forces more and more people into desperate situations where they might resort to crime. The probability of crime just increases and increases, and that's exactly what you're seeing in Canada. The crime is getting so bad that you are seeing so many cities in Canada that are now worse than cities in the United States. Another reason which drove up the cost of housing was just poorly planned immigration. Canada went all in on an immigration bubble that helped influence the housing bubble and keep the housing bubble going, making the economy even more distorted and even more dependent on the housing market. As you can see, the economy in Canada is incredibly dependent on the housing market, and that dependency shows right now because the housing market is really struggling. You're seeing the housing bubble that's imploding. You're seeing more people taking huge losses, and you're seeing more power of sales come onto the market and foreclosures. So a lot of these problems create a really poor economic environment. When you've got the cost of living skyrocketing, when you've got a housing bubble, those are things that help propel people out. And then when you've got a lot of immigration, well, that immigration might not stick around very long.
Tomorrow around 8 p.m. is my flight, so I'm just leaving to India.
Forever?
Yep.
Because they don't have the support networks in Canada. So a lot of those immigrants are leaving too, or planning to leave. So what is next for countries like Canada, countries like the UK? And the problem is, it's hard to be optimistic in the situation when you look at these countries and you try and think in an unbiased way, because they really have nothing going for them. And you're just seeing populism of the left, populism of the right. You're seeing rising authoritarianism. system. And even right now, just take what is going on, for example, with the tariffs. They are increasing the cost of living by taxing people more, using the cover story of tariffs and having an elbows up trade war with the United States. But it's all why it's pushing more and more people into poverty, and it's pushing the cost of living up, and also the amount of corruption that is going on is likely going to increase. I mean, this was the reason why tariffs were mostly got rid of in the early 1900s in the United States. It was because of the rampant corruption that tariffs caused. So you're just seeing more and more corruption that is happening in these huge governments, and that corruption has a massive price, and unfortunately the people who pay that price are the poor and middle class. And that problem leads more and more people who have the means, who have the resources, who have the skill set to look for the exit and go wherever that they can be treated better. And that's exactly what you're seeing. That's why so many people are leaving. And it's not just pensioners anymore that are moving out of necessity. Like I said earlier in the video, you're seeing more and more entrepreneurs that are leaving because the business environment just isn't supportive in Canada or in the United States or even in the UK. So they're moving to places like Mexico, and they're benefiting hugely off an expanding economy of a growing middle class and a country that's going in the right direction. Now, obviously, there will be ups and downs in that process as well as in Western economies. But what we can all agree about Western economies is that they are on the downtrend. They are on the downfall. And that also presents new risks like capital controls that could become a thing as governments look to restrict and clamp down on people that are leaving. They already try and do this to a certain extent with things like exit taxes in Canada, but you might see that that just increases and it goes to more things, like you pay a tax on all the money in your bank accounts when you leave. That is just an example of a capital control. So having banking diversification is incredibly important in this environment. And this is exactly why I'm going to be doing an event about this very topic and how you can save money transferring money overseas, how you can diversify your banking portfolio, and just more information about offshore banking and some of the unique opportunities that are available to Canadians. And if an event like that interests you, then please sign up to the link in the pinned comment, because there'll only be 32 available spaces. It's going to be an intimate event. But more and more, you're seeing the need for this type of diversification because the risk is just rising as more and more people look for that exit, that the government that is becoming more and more authoritarian. I mean, just look at what's happening with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is very authoritarian, like him or not. And you're seeing more and more leaders that come forth like that. And that is because of populism of the left and populism of the right. And it's because of all the polarization that is happening when it comes to politics. So that presents huge risk, and people are looking to get out before that happens. People are trying to withdraw the wealth from their equity before it evaporates into thin air because of government devaluation of the currency. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd highly recommend this video here. And if you want to be on the wait list for that event, then please sign up on the pinned comment. I will see you in the next one. Take care.